Hi everyone, today I'm talking about Visa stock versus Mastercard stock, and I've not made this video since 2018, and I only just noticed the other day how old it was on my channel, and it's one of my most viewed videos on the channel as well. Obviously the information is a little bit outdated because it's 2 years old, and as well as that, watching the video, I'll be honest, it looked a bit crap and it looked a bit dated, and I really wanted to update the video as well. And as well, on the video, I've got to mention about hitting the like button, so I'm going to add it in on this video right now. But looking back on that old video from 2018, I've got to say I looked at the Visa and Mastercard prices, and like Visa was $120 when I made that video. Obviously 2 years later we're talking about Visa at $201, so it's crazy to think since I made that video Visa has nearly gone up nearly double in that time. And that's exactly why I need to go update that video, and I can tell you guys really like me talking about Visa and Mastercard stock. Now before we get on to which is the best stock, I want to say that both companies are fantastic. I do rate both companies as buys, and I think that both stocks are great additions into your portfolio if you do have a stock market portfolio. Ideally, to be honest with you, I only kind of like hold one company in the same sector in the portfolio at the same time. Sometimes I do have two companies, but most of the time I only have one. So that's why I eventually chose Visa. But today I'm going to hopefully help you choose if you want to have Visa or Mastercard in that portfolio. Now, like I say, it doesn't matter. You can have you can have both of them if you want. You know, you look at Warren Buffett, he has both of them in his portfolio, so it can't be that bad of an idea to have both of these in your stock market portfolio. But I'm going to go through, if you had to choose one stock in your portfolio, which one would you choose out of these two? And we're going to have a look into that today. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is the price. Now, we're going to talk about the price for this reason, mainly because if you had a bit of a less money to invest in the stock market, you might only want to buy one of them. And for that money that you had to buy, you probably want to try and get the most shares you could for your money. So you probably want to get the cheaper price stock, and then you would be able to have more shares. This probably will help you if you have a stock that goes up and you'll be able to like trim your position a little bit, or it might help you buy more shares when you average in. Like I say, it's probably not the main reason why you would get into a stock, but sometimes these things are considered by a few investors, and for me as well, I consider sometimes like what company can I buy more shares of. Sometimes you can get a bigger dividend as well doing it that way. Like I say, so it's something to consider. So Visa is $201, Mastercard is $319. So really, you pay nearly 60% more price really for Mastercard. So for this round, for the amount of shares you could get for a price, I'm going to have to go and give the point to Visa. Next is the PE ratio, and now this is probably the first thing that I look at and seeing which company or how the company is doing. Is it a little bit overvalued? Is it undervalued? The PEs are kind of the first thing that is fundamental that I look at that helps me start deciding if I like this stock or not. Now, when I last made this video, believe it or not, Visa's PE was 30 and Mastercard's PE was 37. So they have gone up slightly, but obviously the stock market is kind of trading at all-time highs right now as I'm making this video, and everything is a little bit more expensive. Now, 37 isn't too bad considering where other PE ratios are. Mastercard obviously is a little bit more at 47. Now, obviously the valuation point here is that it's pointing towards Visa compared to Mastercard. I think 37 isn't too bad where the market is right now. I think 47 does stand out by being quite high, and when we look at kind of how the P ratios are doing, there is quite a big gap between these two stocks. So for P ratios, obviously I'm going to have to give this one to Visa. So the next is earnings per share, and both companies have done fantastic growing that EPS really over the last few years. Obviously quite a few of them do like a bit of a stock buyback as well. Now, it is a bit of a closer one, this one. Visa is growing at 16.19%. Mastercard is growing at 17.68%. So it is quite close really. There's not much in this one. Like I say, it would only take Visa to pull out some better than expected earnings, and it could quite potentially beat Mastercard on its earning per share. But because I'm going with what numbers they're doing right now, I'm going to have to give this point to Mastercard. Next is the revenue growth, and Visa's revenue is growing at 11.8%. Whereas Mastercard's growing at 13.6%. So at the moment, Mastercard, and for a while Mastercard has been the bigger revenue growing company. Both companies do like to buy a company out to try and help improve that revenue. And like I say, it is quite another close one as well. It just takes Visa another great earnings report, and they could quite easily take over Mastercard on that revenue. But for so long, Mastercard has been the better revenue player going forward. And one thing that really has helped Mastercard be one of the or be better than Visa in the revenue growth is that internationally, Mastercard has done a better job than what Visa has, and that's what's helped it. And at the moment, it looks like Mastercard will carry on growing bigger internationally than what Visa is doing, and this should carry on being the same for quite a while, really. Mastercard has done a fantastic job getting into those developing countries and taking over Visa there, so I'm going to have to give this point again to Mastercard. Debt is covered on Visa stock by 1.3, whereas Mastercard is covered by 1.9. As well as that, the amount of debt that is on the balance sheet of Visa is pretty much over double what is on Mastercard as well. Visa has a bit more cash on hand at the same time, but the amount of debt really on that balance sheet of Visa is definitely a little bit more than what is on Mastercard, so I'm going to have to give this point to Mastercard. Now the last one is the dividends, and even though these yields are pretty low, the companies are easily going to be growing these dividends going forward, and as well as that, the stocks have been going up absolutely huge, and that's not helped the dividend yield look that attractive. But if the stocks were ever to go down, obviously the yield will be going up quite a bit. Now, it is another very close one. The Visa stock pays a dividend yield of 0.6%, and Mastercard pays a dividend yield of 0.5%. So there's only 0.1% in it. But historically, Visa has grown their dividend slightly more than what Mastercard has. It also has a lower payout rate, and Visa also has a longer history of paying a dividend than what Mastercard does. So with all them four combined points together, I am going to have to give this last round to Visa. So this year it is tied 3-3 at the moment. So it is a very, very close one between these stocks. And all it goes down to really is, what do you prefer? Do you prefer to have a stock at a cheaper valuation, or maybe you want to go for the stock that has that little bit more growth going forward? Personally, I've always gone for the stock that's a little bit cheaper and slightly has that edge on dividend, because the growth isn't that much different from Mastercard. But either way, Mastercard they're just very similar stocks, and Mastercard is a great company going forward, and internationally with that revenue growth, the biggest difference between these is the revenue growth on Mastercard side. So if you do believe Mastercard internationally will absolutely smash Visa more than what they're going to do right now, then maybe you will put back the Mastercard overall. But like I say, both great companies. I'd recommend both as a buy, and at least have one of them in your portfolio overall. Payment companies are really easy money in the stock market. And today, that's me just updating you on the Visa versus Mastercard, the battle, and seeing which stock is better. Like I say, I have to go with Visa overall, but both great companies. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember, if you could give it a like, that would be absolutely amazing. And I'll see you on the next video.